Africa, therefore, demands no less than 2 permanent seats with all the rights and privileges of the permanent members, including the right to veto, and 2 additional seats in the non-permanent category of the Security Council.
I'm a king.
As a country that has experienced the devastating consequences of armed conflict, we acknowledge that peace cannot be achieved in isolation. It requires inclusive political processes, economic development, and respect for human rights. For the millions of civilians trapped in ongoing armed conflicts, words of condemnation and empathy alone are not enough. Nearly 80 years after its creation, the Security Council has been stuck in time. Its imbalanced composition is unjust and at odds with current realities. Unfortunately, Africa remains the unquestionable victim in all of this. In a historic and successful debate, which I presided over during Sierra Leone's August presidency of the Security Council on addressing the historic injustice and enhancing Africa's effective representation in the Security Council, I spoke as a representative of the continent that has long been underrepresented in the decision-making processes that shape our world. That debate had an indisputable resonance. One, that the historical injustice being perpetrated against Africa must be rectified. Two, that Africa must be treated as a special case. And three, that it must be prioritized in the reform process. The facts and issues are now clear to all. Africa has long been marginalized in global decision-making processes, and its voices are often drowned out. The legacy of colonialism, economic exploitation, and political marginalization has left deep scars on the African continent, thereby affecting its development, stability, and influence in international affairs. Addressing contemporary global security challenges require the collective wisdom and the cooperation of all nations, not just the privileged few or the most militarily or economically powerful. We argue that equitable representation of Africa will better equip the United Nations to tackle global challenges and foster a more just, fair, and peaceful world. Africa, therefore, demands no less than 2 permanent seats with all the rights and privileges of the permanent members, including the right to veto and 2 additional seats in the non-permanent category of the Security Council. Let us work together to redress historical injustice and recreate a Security Council that truly reflects the diversity of the world that we live in today. As I stated in the Security Council debate, the time for half-hearted measures and incremental progress is over. Africa's voice must be heard, and its demands for justice and equity must be met, and now. In the area of gender equality and women's economic empowerment, Significant strides have been made, and they are some of the legacies my government will bequeath to our current and future generations. I recently signed into law this year a bill prohibiting child marriage. Following the historic signing into law of the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Act of 2023, I remain steadfast in my commitment to ensuring that every girl and woman lives in a safe environment with ample opportunities to realize their full potential and thrive equally in the world. We will continue to advocate for women and girls across the globe, leaving no one behind and acting together to achieve sustainable development. Similarly means that we have to end global economic inequalities and ensure that government in least developed countries can deliver on the dividends of democracy. The unmanageable debt crisis, the devastating impact of climate change and lack of climate finance, conflicts, and political instability around the world are increasing the odds of developing countries not achieving the SDGs. At the International Development Association for Africa Heads of State Summit in Nairobi, April this year, Sierra Leone unreservedly expressed its endorsement of the Nairobi IDA communique. The communique exemplifies the collective aspiration of the African heads of state present to raise the level of development support in Africa through the IDA 21 replenishment. Concessional finance allows African leaders to develop our economies, enhance education and healthcare, deal with increasing effects of climate change, and expand electricity and digital access without becoming buried in unsustainable debt. The end of the Second World War in 1945 did not only unite leaders, but also urged them to cooperate. This was the birth of multilateralism. As the African proverb says, our two hands do not wash themselves. They wash one another. We must cooperate to achieve the purposes of this United Nations and deliver peace and security, stability and prosperity for our people. Divisions and unhealthy competition will only lead to humanity's destruction. We must ensure unity in diversity, where the rights of the weak and the minority are protected. So let us safeguard our multilateral system. Let us cooperate, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development, and human dignity for present and future generations, leaving no one behind. Thank you.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king, I'm a king.